politics in the United States of America. The left has gotten really left, and the right has gotten really right. Everyone's towing the line, and we're getting nowhere fast. This is the Rational American. The Rational American. Common sense has gone out the window, and our passion is to open eyes in hopes that people will take a rational look at what America is actually becoming. Put your feelings aside and let's get real. This is the Rational American, and this is your host, Steve Oatley.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to an early episode of The Rational American. Now, I was going to record an episode and air it pseudo live like we typically do at 9 or 8 o'clock to 9:30, and then we've got September 7th, 2020. September 7th, 2020 riots that'll air after because my son had a football game, but it's been raining like crazy, so they actually canceled the football game, which doesn't make any sense because they're currently practicing. He was all excited too. He got his jersey and all that stuff today. So it's kind of crappy, but whatever. It is what it is. So I decided that I'd go live because I just saw a video by WYSIWYG, and I see all the people that are commenting about me and his feed and going back and forth. So I'm just going to clarify a couple of things and talk from a very, high level, right? So I'm not going to be like, going and trying to bash people or anything like that. I'm going to start from the very beginning, from the People's Convoy all the way up. Now, many of you guys may or may not know that I've been involved in the trucking industry now for 17 years or so. So I have a vested interest. The May Day protest that took place in May of 2020 in Washington, D.C., where all the trucks went and rallied for, I don't know how long it was. I think it was 22 days or something. But they basically, formed around the White House and on Constitution Ave and honked their air horns all the time, kind of like they did at the People's Convoy when they were in Hagerstown. But they honked their air horns at all time. Everyone was pretty respectful. There was some fighting and stuff amongst the truckers. Some of the very, very familiar names that you saw at the People's Convoy, Mike Landis and some of the other groups, those people were actually at the May Day protest because the May Day protest was about trucking. Granted, a lot of what people were protesting was kind of skewed from reality. And I say that not to be mean to the truck drivers, but they have, a lot of truck drivers believe that freight brokers, who are the people that find and assign carriers loads, because they get paid a percentage of the load value. So they believe that the freight brokers make too much money. And because people that don't understand markets and all that stuff, they don't understand that when rates go down, when supply chain issues, tank, the freight broker who's on a percentage is also making a percentage lower than what they typically would. Say if a load goes for 2,000 and then it, the market crashes and the load is now selling for $1,000. It's not that the freight broker is making up that difference and making all that money. That's typically not what happens, even on the contract rates, because you got to figure contract rates are actually selling below spot market. But long story short, a lot of those truckers that were participating in the May Day protest in 2020 in DC, they were focused more on anti-broker stuff, talking about how brokers are price gouging and it's price fixing and market manipulation and all this stuff. And that's what they're championing. Of course, I had a show called Freight Broker Live. We addressed the freight industry from a broker's perspective. And I had, I was a carrier too, owned trucks and all that stuff, and driver as well. So I have a good understanding of the trucking industry as a whole. I took a very keen interest in that protest because, well, everyone was talking all this smack about freight brokers when that wasn't the issue. Now, mind you, the trucking industry has some major issues that should be addressed in public, and they're not, like the lack of parking, driver pay sucks, restrooms and places to safely stop and get out of your truck, hours of service, detention pay, detention rate. I've now been in the transportation industry. Granted, I don't really do anything with it now, but 17, 18 years, the detention rate, which is the rate a truck driver is paid to sit and wait for his truck to be loaded, is the same rate now as it was 18 years ago. Go figure that one out. So there's so many things that truckers could protest, and they didn't do it in May, and they didn't do it at, with the People's Convoy. So when the People's Convoy started, I watched the protest and I looked at it because here's the thing, and I know a lot of people disagree. All of the government encroaching on my liberties, right? So by them locking us down, it didn't affect me. One, I was in Florida and we didn't really lock down. Hell, my gym was pretty much open the whole time. Sure, I had to be inconvenienced if I wanted to go to the doctor and wear a mask, but I'd rather wear a mask in a doctor's office anyway, so I didn't get sick. Did I get a vaccine? No. Was I forced to get vaccinated to keep my job? No. I didn't have those things, so I wasn't vested as much. And I didn't also see it as extreme as some people did, where, they believe, there's a lot of people that believed it was the end of the world. And maybe, just maybe, the lockdowns and all that stuff were a step towards that decay of America. But for me, I never really saw it that much. I think, all the stuff with COVID and all that is, when you talk about the science stuff, it's a little bit different. But so long story short, I wasn't interested in the People's Convoy for the anti-vax type of talk because I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just personally don't believe in getting vaccinated. My wife is vaccinated. Pretty much my entire family, except my kids, are vaccinated, because I get to make their decisions as well. And I make my own decisions. So it didn't affect me. And I've never been anti-vax because I believe that if you want to go get vaccinated and run the risk of an experimental drug doing whatever it's going to do, that's your prerogative. That's your thing. The protest in Canada was a little different, however, because that directly related to the trucking industry. The People's Convoy, or whatever it was called, the Freedom Convoy in Canada, that was quite a bit different because it directly related to the truckers that were crossing the border and then being told they weren't allowed to work anymore. So, and maybe people don't remember this, but truckers, and I forgot when it went into effect, I think January, and then, all the truckers started realizing, holy shit, this does affect us, and they started protesting. But what was happening is the cross-border travel was essential for a very long time, meaning you had to be an essential worker, i.e. truck driver, medical care, newspaper, actually, reporters, all those people are essential. So to try to cross the border while hauling freight from Canada into the United States, you had no real issues because the United States didn't, even though you're exempted, they did eventually, and I don't know if it's still in place, but they did put in a requirement that you had to be vaccinated. Canada took it a step further, saying that to cross into the border, to cross into the United States from Canada, even if you were or to cross into Canada from the United States, even if you're a Canadian citizen, you had to be vaccinated. And if you didn't get vaccinated, then you were required to do a 14-day quarantine, which meant you couldn't work, which meant truck drivers were losing their livelihoods. Owner-operators that crossed in didn't want to get vaccinated, are socially distanced, they're in a truck by themselves the majority of the time. All the warehouses and everywhere that they were going, they're all, closed down, and meaning there's no physical contact. You don't have person-to-person contact at most of these pickups and deliveries now. They're doing it through windows with masks and gloves, or they're coming out and, virtually signing paperwork. It's crazy. But Canadian truck drivers were locked down. As soon as they crossed into the into Canada, they were told they have to quarantine because they are unvaccinated until they test negative twice, I believe is what it was, for a matter of 8 days. And they were getting police escorts home. That's why the Canadian truck drivers were protesting. That didn't happen in the United States. So when all this talk about the Freedom Convoy, and I got the People's Convoy, I got so many emails from people saying, how come you're not talking about this trucker convoy that's coming from California? How come you're not talking about it? How come you're not talking about it? And I'm like, because I can't get a gauge on whether are they riding the coattails of the Freedom Convoy, or are they going to speak about some of the issues in trucking? Because you got to figure too, and I want to make this perfectly clear to everyone so everyone understands, the trucking industry is so bad and it's so crucial to America's everyday survival, and yet it is the most overlooked career, I believe, ever, the most overlooked industry. Because, like, for example, and a lot of this is going to be over your head, so you may not like it, but I think it's important to fully address. Truck drivers, when there's a national emergency, right? So when they declared the pandemic and they did a nationwide shutdown and all that stuff, the people that were not locked down at all were truck drivers. truck drivers actually had all their regulations, or a lot of regulations that were imposed on them by the government, like hours of service regulations, overweight, all these different regulations that were put on them. They had them removed. So a truck driver was allowed to drive as long as he felt safe to do, instead of, just driving 10 hours with 8 hours, continuous and blah, blah, blah. And all the hours of service regulations, the laws that are currently in place, were all waived so truckers could bring PPE and food and groceries and toilet paper and fuel to all these different locations as part of the pandemic response. The problem with that is the pay didn't reflect that it was pandemic, which typically if there's a hurricane or something, those FEMA loads pay pretty good. That was like the first sign that something was wrong. But then you got to remember, everything was locked down. They shut down everything. They shut down fast food. They shut down truck stops. They shut down everything. So all these drivers that are running all around the roads and making all these deliveries and everything, they couldn't even get food. They would try to go through drive-thrus because some drive-thrus were open, but they had policies in place that they wouldn't serve truck drivers. You know how many articles we wrote at PT News, because eventually we changed it to Citizen Stringer, but then it was still PT News. We wrote all these articles about truck drivers literally being refused at drive-thrus. Body cam. There was a truck driver arrested, I believe, in North Carolina for attempting to get food. And he's like, I am hungry. And the cops came and they told him to leave. And he's like, I am not leaving until I get food. I have money. I need to get food. I need to get food. And I believe he was arrested. And that's happened over and over and over. So I thought, and all the other things that have happened with truck parking and trucks not being allowed to park here, and the illegal towing. Matter of fact, any towing of a commercial vehicle where the tow companies just charge whatever they want. Private lot parking, where that's a huge issue too. And let alone detention pay, and the rates were going to go down. And then they started putting requirements on truck drivers where some brokerages are requiring the carriers are vaccinated in order to haul the freight for their customers. Some warehouses are refusing to allow unvaccinated drivers onto the property at all. There was, I believe it was a produce plant or something, where truck drivers were trying to deliver into this plant and they refused to allow them in because they were unvaccinated. And all the product on the back went bad. And we're not even talking about like Smithfield Foods and all these big meat manufacturing plants that shut down because they had all these COVID outbreaks, which affected the trucking industry too. All these warehouses closed down. And even when they started reopening, guess what happened? All these people are getting sick with COVID, with the flu. So they had to go home. They were sent home and quarantined. They didn't have time to load these trucks. So now instead, what would have taken 3 or 4 hours to load a 53-foot dry van was now taking days. There was one place, I think it was in Georgia, where they had a 4-day wait for loads. And trucks were lined up all, for miles and miles and miles, all the way to the interstate. And this business, this factory, was miles away from the interstate. And they were just camped there because they couldn't get in, or they couldn't even deliver the loads into this distribution center. And so that's why I started paying attention to that's why I started paying attention to what's going on. Okay. That's why I started paying attention to the People's Convoy originally, because I thought all of these issues were going to be raised. And you guys know, I went to the People's Convoy. I stayed in Hagerstown for 3 days, brewed up a bunch of coffee, gave them free coffee, and interviewed a bunch of people. And I remember staying and listening to the one speech. And you got all these, figureheads of the trucking protests, right? Mike Landis, a big figurehead of the trucking industry. Brian Brazzi, a big figurehead of the trucking industry in terms of previous protests and slow rolls and stuff like that in the trucking industry. So I figured they were going to address some of these issues. I listened to his speech for 2 hours and not a mention of any of the struggles that a truck driver has on the road, especially during the pandemic, not a one. And it pissed me off. And I kind of had a feeling that was going to be the case. I kind of had a feeling that they weren't going to report, or they weren't going to talk about trucking, because they always said this isn't about the trucking industry. It's not about the trucking industry. Then why was it originally called the Freedom Convoy and it was led by, thousands of trucks? Why? It was, everyone refers to it as a trucker protest, the trucker protest, the trucker protest. Well, if it's referred to as a trucker protest, why aren't you talking about any issues related to trucking at all? So that kind of turned me off by it. And I'll be honest, when I left Hagerstown, I was sour. I made a video the day I left, I believe, or the day after I left and came back home, and I was pissed. And I ranted about it and the fact that they had an opportunity on the national scale. They sat with Ted Cruz and all these other politicians, and they could have addressed any issue other than, oh, our freedoms are being taken away and stuff. Because again, freedoms were taken away for some people, not everyone. I understand there's people that were forced to lose their job and are unqualified to hold any other job. I get that. I'm the type of person that if I work at a place and it doesn't work, I'm a little bit different. So I can't really, I'm not criticizing people for fighting and standing up for the fact that they don't want to get vaccinated, because I'm unvaccinated. My employer is me. I would never require anyone to get vaccinated. Some companies just mandated it, some didn't. And it's, to me, you got to fight for freedom. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, that's what this group is doing. I don't think so. I think this group now is more like a cult than anything else. And I'll explain, and I'm taking a long time getting here, but you guys just, tune in. So that's why I was really pissed off about the People's Convoy. People's Convoy then left Hagerstown, and all the while they did nothing really. So I left Hagerstown. I did my rant video about it. I actually went back the first day they circled 495, and I was like, this is fucking cool. I was all into it again. This was the next day. I dropped the motorhome off and went and got in my car and drove around and chased it around with them. And I'm like, this is cool, because I saw everyone up on the bridges waving, and I'm like, this is amazing. But again, in the pit of my stomach, I'm like, they're not talking about the trucking industry. Like, why? Why, with all the national attention and all that stuff, they're not. What they're doing is they're, and this is my opinion, is that the organizers were using truckers. The organizers, and what's sad is some of them were truckers. But that's my opinion, is that the organizers were using the trucks in an effort to get that national attention, to jump onto the Freedom Convoy coattails and boost that up, right? So it upset me. So even when I was, going around the Beltway with them twice and stopping and filming and live streaming the whole thing, I was still a little annoyed, because I'm like, they're not representing what they should. Do you know what I mean? They're not representing. I like, shit, just talk about trucking just for a minute. Just do it, and they didn't. And it supremely irritated me. Right. And then they left. Hagerstown, and everyone's like, you should go back and do interviews, blah, blah, blah. And people that have been watching Freight Broker Live since the Freight time, they knew everything that, I said, and most of them agreed with it. Even some of the back end organizers agreed with it and contacted me, and they're like, yeah, that's why we're not putting our name on it. And I'm like, so it pissed me off. And then they left. And they left Hagerstown. They went back to California. And this ticked me off, right? So for one, you didn't do the protests and all the stuff that you said you were going to do in DC. You just did the slow roll around. And keep in mind, truckers don't block roadways. Okay. They don't. You see, everyone says, oh, the great trucker protests of 1950s, right? Where the trucks actually stopped on the highway and blocked it. Trucks don't do that. Why? Because they're treated different than other protesters. It's interstate commerce. And I don't know why they're treated different. In I think it was April of 2020, we wrote a big article on it that went super duper viral. Is a bunch of truck drivers, port workers from Houston, Texas, pulled their trucks along. They didn't do a slow roll, and they didn't block the interstate. They pulled their trucks onto the side of the interstate, the breakdown lanes, and held a protest. Maybe 50 to 100 trucks held a protest on the side of the road. The police chief at that time, Acevedo, I think is his name. He's now Los Angeles sheriff, or Villanova or whatever. I don't know who it is. One of those guys. But he actually gave them all misdemeanor citations for blocking the roadway. And then literally 3 weeks later, he was blocking, the police chief that cited everybody else was blocking that very same roadway, taking a knee with Black Lives Matter. You can't even make it up. But truckers don't do this. Truckers don't go and block roadways. What they do is, it's called the slow roll. It's where they drive at the minimum speed limit, usually in single file, sometimes double. Sometimes they block all lanes, but typically they don't. But they're never stopped, and they do that. And I don't even like slow rolls either, because it causes the traffic backup. And being someone that used to drive an ambulance for a living, I was really pissed off if you're sitting in traffic while you're doing CPR on a patient. And you can't account for that. You may have all the good intentions in the world, doing a slow roll, fighting for freedom, whatever you're fighting for, fair rates or whatever. But if someone dies or my family member dies in a car accident or dies because they're not able to get to the hospital in time, that's a problem. And what's funny is a lot of people will be like, well, you got to do, civil disobedience, blah, blah, blah. You got to look real hard at yourself. You got to look real hard at yourself when you say that, because I guarantee you were one of the people that in 2020, you were up in arms about BLM protesters blocking Interstate 5, I believe, that blocked entrance or it blocked the entrance to the ER there in, I think it was in Seattle, or no, it was in Portland. Or maybe Seattle, I don't remember, but they blocked the entrances and they had to divert those patients to other hospitals. God forbid one of those patients died. Everybody was criticizing that. So I don't know why, we have this weird double standard. And it's so weird because conservatives will call out the double standard from the left. Like, for example, the White House press secretary, saying Trump stole an election, blah, 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 in 2016, and saying that's entirely different than Donald Trump saying that the election of 2020 was, that word. She says, well, it's completely different and it's ridiculous to try to put them together. A lot of conservatives seem to be taking that same approach when it comes to rights or freedom or this and that. And make no mistake, do I think they are encroaching on a very dangerous level of encroaching on your freedoms and stuff? Yeah, I do. As just in general, I don't just mean about COVID. Because to be honest, COVID stopped affecting me when I said, fuck it, I don't care anymore. As soon as I think it was Kamala Harris made a video on Twitter and said, you either get vaccinated or you have to wear the mask. It was at that point that I said, I'm never wearing a mask anymore. I'm never wearing a mask because that was my choice. My wife, my kids had to wear masks to go to school. We gave them the option, my kids, both children. We said, hey, listen, you have to wear a mask to go to school. You don't have to go to school if you don't want to wear the mask. We will figure it out. We'll homeschool you, do whatever. Both of my children decided to wear masks to go to school. We made sure with the doctors and the inhalers and all that stuff, because both of my kids are asthmatics, but we gave them the freedom to make their own choice. Now, however, if they're like, oh, you're going to get fined or something like that. Like, for example, when we did the mortgage thing on my house, right? I had to go and you have to put money in escrow when you buy a house. So I had to go bring a certified check for a certain amount of money and bring it into escrow. I got to the building, and this was after, Jen Psaki or whoever the hell it was, like, wear a mask or get vaccinated. Those are your choices. This was after it. And I tell you, I stick to my principles. I had a check for this house. I walk up to this place, this business in Loudoun County, Virginia, and they got a big mask saying no entry if you're not unmasked. I called the place inside and I said, listen, I'm not wearing a mask. I don't have one. I don't want one because they offered to bring me down one. I said, just bring down the paperwork. I'll sign it, give you the check, and then we're done. And you know what they did? They did that. They did that. Even the person came down and they're like, it's not our policy. It's a building owner's policy that you have to wear a mask. And I'm like, I don't care. That's, and that's the freedom. Like, if I walked into a place and they're like, Steve, you got to wear a mask, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to shop here. I'll just go next door where you don't have to, because that's my choice. I have the freedom to make up that mind. And just as a business owner has the freedom, like, for example, like, I personally, I'm going to open a gym eventually, and I'm going to make a requirement that people aren't allowed to wear yoga pants with holes in them. It's a new fad at the gyms, and I hate it, because then, like, if you're doing a squat or something, they split. Right? And I don't want to see that kind of stuff on anybody. So I'm going to make a rule that says no yoga pants with holes in them. Now, that's my right to do it. Someone will probably be offended and be like, oh my God, Steve has something against yoga pants. But no, it's my right as a business owner to make up my determination of what I want. I don't fault business owners from requiring masks. And in fact, I don't really I fault them for being stupid, but I don't fault business owners from even requiring vaccinations. I was a firefighter EMT. I had to get I couldn't prove that I got vaccines as a kid. Because I wanted to do that job, I was forced to go get vaccinated. That was not for COVID, because this was pre-COVID, but I'm sure you have to be vaccinated now as a paramedic or EMT or whatever. I had to get the TB test and the 3 months MMRs and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But those are my choices. I could have made a decision saying, I don't want to get these vaccines again, or these tests, or tuberculosis. I don't want to do any of this stuff, so I'm just not going to be an EMT. Those are the choices you have the freedom to make. Now, I know a lot of people were affected in a different way, where their employers, longtime employers, 20 plus years, where they're like, hey, you got to be vaccinated to work here. You can't really fault that business for making up their own mind. Now, if you want to fault a company for, blindly following something, then that's one thing. Like, for example, if a company takes a stance that they're anti-vax or they're not forced vax, but then they follow local laws or ordinances requiring that, like Fox News did, then that's something that's completely different. But again, that's my belief in why I don't really subscribe to this whole, like, they're encroaching on your freedom. I think they're encroaching on our freedom in a far different way. I think these vaccines and all that, I think they got a taste of it and they're like, guess what? People blindly follow us. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what it's for, they blindly follow us. You have the CDC Walensky getting up and talking about, yeah, we knew about vaccine efficacy. And then you've got Fauci 2 days ago saying that, it's going to be boosters for life now, just like the flu shots. Is what he said. I got a flu shot once when I was an EMT and I almost died. Like, literally, I'll never get a flu shot again, ever. Because I got the sickest that I've ever been in my life off of a flu shot. No joke. And I was required to get the flu shot because I was an EMT firefighter and I had no choice. But so with that said, that is my idea on, so now you have my perspective on the freedom thing, right? Because everyone's like, freedom, freedom, freedom. And I'm not challenging anyone's, if you believe that your rights are being encroached, and many people are, like, look at Quincy. He was forced to resign or forced to quit or fired, whatever, for refusing to get vaccinated or test. Like, and that's something. Is it bullshit? Yeah, but an employer, if you are a true conservative, you don't believe in requiring the government or requiring an individual business not to do something, because that's the same as requiring a business to do something. You're trying to dictate what an individual or a corporation can do, which I don't understand. And a lot of people were, remember, here's a good example. And I know I pissed a lot of people off with the Bank of America thing. Remember the old lady, the 50, 60-year-old lady that walked into a Bank of America. She was told she had to put on a mask. And she said, I'm not wearing a mask. And they told her to put on a mask. And she's like, I'm just not wearing a mask. And so they said, we can't help you here. You can go through the drive-through, but we can't help you inside. We have a corporate policy saying you have to wear a mask. She got crazy. Cops ended up coming. They attempted to arrest her. They gave her ample time. It's all on body cam. Ample time to leave. She refused. They had tried to arrest her. She struggled, and I think they had to tase her. But remember, she like broke a collarbone or something. And then 2 days later, she did it at another bank. And it's almost like she did it on purpose. But a lot of people got really mad at me because I'm like, listen, if a business can require you to wear a shirt to go in, have you ever heard no shirt, no shoes, no service? How come people aren't protesting outside of those establishments? What the hell is different from a mask? Do you know what I mean? If you walk into a 7-Eleven and you don't have a shirt on, they're live. Well, not a 7-Eleven, because most of the people don't wear shirts going in there. But you know what I mean? If have you ever gone to a restaurant where you have to wear like a button up, or you can't wear sneakers or something like that? Lots of them in big cities. You got into a restaurant like that where you can't go and eat there. They have their own policies in place. And yeah, you could fight about it. You could be pissed about it, but you don't have a right to try to force that business to conform to your standards. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise it's literally doing exactly what the left did with all the lockdowns and all that. Doesn't that make sense? And a lot of people don't get that. Like, to me, it's so basic. It's so basic, like the Anna Netflix show where she says it all the time. But all right, so with all that said, now you understand where I am with the free. Someone said sheep, you rebel, you. Are you guys calling me sheep? Because I just don't fucking care. I don't wear masks. I don't care if you do. It's like all the people that say, I'm anti-vax, but I believe in the freedom. But I believe in freedom, and yet you chastise other people for getting vaccinated. How are you pro-freedom when you are criticizing someone else's freedom of making a choice themselves? It's insane. It's insane. I've never understood that argument. I've never understood. I think businesses can make up whatever determination they want. Because here's the thing. Do you think businesses should be forced to bake cakes, for example, for homosexuals when they may have, something in their religion that forbids that, or whatever the case is? Do you believe that it's right to force that business to do something they don't want to do? If you think yes, then you're a leftist. And if you think you can force a business to not go by any standards that they set internally for wearing a mask, then you might be a leftist as well. Does that make sense? Like, I hope it does. And you have to look at it from that perspective. You have to. And someone said you will not comply. That's fine. That's a personal choice. But you can't attack someone else's freedom because they choose to comply. Because if you do that, then you are not actually advocating for freedom. You're advocating for you, which is not right. Anyway, you're saying your freedom is crazier than anyone else's. But anyway, so let's go back. Now let's go back to when this group came. They went out to the People's Convoy, went out to California. At that point, I started hearing all sorts of weird stuff. Like, it was falling apart at that point early on. We already knew that. I knew that. And I wasn't writing articles. Every now and then I'd just give an update on where they were, but I wouldn't really talk about it. The People's Convoy went to California. They did their anti-vax protest there. Very good, whatever. Then they started back again. And then I figured out, oh, they're coming all the way back here. Are they going to actually go and protest in DC like we thought they were going to? And then you had all sorts of other stuff, like the overpass shooting that apparently never happened, even though obviously someone shot at the overpass, Antifa throwing it down, the skirmishes along the way, and then them getting back to Hagerstown. Now, I had a good mind of myself to go to Hagerstown when they came back to get a feel. But I was watching a lot of live feeds. I listened, I talked to a lot of the people that were there and realized it's probably not best, because this group that had come back was quite a bit more on the holy shit, they're grabbing, they're encroaching on our freedom all the time. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You know, and personally, for the reasons I just said, I think the freedom, when you think about freedom, you should be thinking about guns. You should be thinking about voting rights. You should be thinking about those things that they're trying to take from you, like election integrity, those kind of things. Not whether you got to wear a mask in a private business when the business determines that they want you to wear a mask. Do you know what I mean? There's much bigger issues, but what we consistently hear about is the COVID bullshit. And to be honest, maybe that was my problem, is I got turned off from it because I got tired of listening to people bitch and talk about COVID. Because frankly, I just gave a shit. I stopped giving a shit about it, about COVID in general. That was my prerogative. That's how I felt. Then the group got crazy. So then there started being all sorts of inner turmoil at the People's Convoy. While it was still the People's Convoy, everyone else left. Brian Brazy, I guess, took some big job. Landis left. Trucker G left. All these big, people, they all had to go back to work. Freight rates were going up. They couldn't sit there and not work anymore. They had to go. So the majority of the actual truckers that were part of this group left. That was like literally when I stopped being interested in this whole thing, to be honest. And then one night, I forgot what night it was, but the 1776 restoration movement was born, right? And it was born in such a way where the People's Convoy, the Marcus and the other guy that were running that, or the girl that were running that, there's all sorts of financial weird shit. They were in this big expensive motorhome that they rented, and there was no transparency about money. And long story short, they got everybody evicted. They tried to call on a group that wanted accountability for where money was. They got them evicted from Hagerstown. And then the Hagerstown people were so pissed off, they evicted everybody. And police came and boom, 1776 was born because all those groups, the people that were extreme, the people that were riled up because the People's Convoy stole money, all this stuff, all that rhetoric, they all met in like a Walmart parking lot, right? And they sat around, and Santa, it was the first time I've ever heard Santa. Never heard him before. He's like any other loudmouth, and I'm not saying it to be offensive, but that's what he is. Never. And I know he gave speeches and stuff, and I know some of the violent rhetoric that he's given in different speeches. I know. But that doesn't faze me because we live in an emotional time. There's violent rhetoric on all sides. Frankly, I don't care unless it affects me, personally. Like if someone wants to get violent, say violent things to me, I'm going to react. If someone says it on streams, I don't give a shit. So, but I knew of him, but I didn't know him. I never listened to his speeches or anything like that. He's in this parking lot. And I remember the moment the old couple walked up, and I don't know their names, and most of you guys that watch it all the time, most of you guys know. I remember the moment the old couple walked up and gave him a stack of cash, $10,000 cash. I knew at that very moment this was fundamentally over. I saw it in his face Rose was there, I believe, too. I saw this was no longer about, and this is, again, opinions. This is my opinion, and opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. But I figured at that very moment, this was no longer about protesting for freedoms. $10,000 hit that man's hand, or it hit the group's hand. And I think it changed at that point. It became a financial thing, in my opinion. Again, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. So they ended up finding this new location in Bunker Hill, which is like 40 minutes away from me now. They found this new location there. They started doing well, actually, were they in Bunker Hill right away? I don't know. Well, yeah, they were. They found the new location in Bunker Hill. And then on July 4th, and then I stopped caring about it. You know, before July 4th, stop caring about it. Everyone's like, oh, how come you're not covering the 1776 movement? How come you're not doing this? How come you're not doing this? How come you're not doing that? And I'm like, because frankly, I don't give two fucking shits. I don't care about the group. You know what I mean? I'm not for this. Like, if you want to fight about something, fight about like actual like freedom shit. Like, you want to fight about something, fight with fight the way I am every single day, doing what I do with the media side, getting like, I called my wife and I'm like, guess what, dear? And I'm like, she's like, what? I'm like, I'm going to be able to see the kids today. No freaking joke, because I'm in here every day. And and a lot of people don't realize I'm not just doing the coffee shit. No, we're doing research to talk, about politics. We're doing all that stuff all day long. And it's such an intensive thing, but that is my way of fighting back, right now. There's other ways, but that's my way of doing it now. This group, I didn't feel was doing that. I felt it was more about money. It was more about being popular, in whatever skewed version of popularity they were looking for. That's what I viewed this convoy or this group as. They wanted to be the ones that all the streamers around. They wanted to be the ones that people are talking about on the web. They wanted to be the guy that Zach Patrizio with the Daily Caller was yelling about. That's what they wanted. Or the Daily, whatever, the fucking leftist rag there. They wanted to be that person, because what does that do? If you get publicity and you tell people constantly, we're fighting for your freedoms, we're fighting for your freedoms, all this stuff takes money, we're fighting for your freedoms, we're fighting for your freedoms, my car got ruined, we're fighting for your freedoms, we need to pay for hotels, we're fighting for your... It's like just putting out a fucking hand. Do you know what I mean? It's just putting out a hand, every single thing. And that's what I thought more and more and more. And then it changed July 4th. July 4th, I woke up early, saw that all these streamers that have been covering this group were live early in the morning. And I was like, what the hell is going on? They were blocking the roadways to the interstates. And I tuned in before they even had stopped. And I'm like, oh, are they going to slow roll on July 4th? Like, that's legendary. That's a good idea. Nope, they parked their trucks on the side on the interstates, blocking most lanes of travel, not all of them, but blocking most lanes of travel early in the morning, not really having an effect on traffic, but drawing the ire of law enforcement. Now, there was a group that made national news at that time, because national news didn't pick up the trucks stopping, even though they got back to Bunker Hill and they were like, national news saw us today. I remember listening to that speech. I'm like, no, the fuck they didn't. They got the climate protesters that were on the other side of DC that sat in the roadway until they got arrested. That was on national news. And it happened the same time, same day. They didn't talk about truckers. They didn't talk about them at all. Maybe local news. Oh yeah, there's backups because some truckers stopped on the road. That's it. It's just like Interstate 81 northbound today is shut down because a truck jackknifed in the rain. Shut down for 4 or 5 hours. The news is going to be like, yep, truck jackknifed on the river, causing massive delays. Next up at 6. That's not coverage, right? But they stopped on the roadways, and something made me say, okay, I've had enough. I need to look into this more. Find out why this group is doing what they're doing. I have a unique background of working in transportation, in logistics. I am someone that is very, very, very proficient, especially doing safety, with the trucking industry, safety and compliance. I'm very proficient at finding everything there is to know about trucks, specifically, trucks that are working for a company. that have DOT numbers on the side or license plates because we could search through the insurance records or VIN numbers and all that stuff. Like I don't do that for the journalism side. I have the capabilities of doing that as a broker and as a transportation consultant. I have those capabilities and those resources. So I started looking into some of the trucks that day. And then I uncovered a sex offender that was part of that group, Marcus Kopach. Now, many of you guys know him as Bandit. All right. Now, and I'm being as descriptive as I can here because I think it's important. I think it's very important to be forthright and honest with all of you guys. So I started looking into it and I pulled up his court records in Indiana. It's all public record. Everyone could look it up. And it's not even hard. You don't need to pay for it like you do with Pacer on the federal court system. Nope. It's all free right there. And you could see everything from how he even checked in. The last check-in he did was June 30th of this year, saying that he's traveling because he must be driving again. But here's what's interesting. Or no, that was the last one. So I don't even know. He could be locked up because he hasn't had any travel paperwork for a while. It would be interesting to see. But because apparently he's not in Bunker Hill. But anyway, I looked this guy up, right? Something and I don't know what it was. I didn't have the emails about him. I knew nothing about pedophiles or child molesters or rapists or, women beaters or anybody that was part of this group prior to July 4th. July 4th, I decided that I wanted to look into something, and that's where I found it. And that's where I found that Marcus Kopach was a child molester, and not just a child molester. He pled guilty to molesting a child. You don't, and I'll be honest, you never plead guilty to something. People don't plead guilty. Do you know what I mean? They don't plead guilty to being a child molester. Someone said, oh, geez, Steve, it was made up. Charges were like 2006 and divorce 2011. Just kidding. Level 3 violent sex register for life. Yeah. I don't know what you're saying just kidding about. Because here's the thing. You don't plead guilty to raping a child, nor do you go into jail and do 5-6 years, however long he did, as a sex offender. You don't do it. Because he probably had a really rough time in prison as well as a sex offender. So that piqued my interest because he was participating. And in fact, he was leading one of the blockades on the roadway. That pissed me off because I'm like, okay, they're already not talking about trucking. Now you got a fake fucking trucker, like a hotshotter. And I'm nothing against hotshots. I owned hotshots. I don't even know if he does hotshots. He's probably an RV guy. Nothing against them either, but not a trucker, not driving a semi. You got him leading one of these convoys that's blocking the roadways on July 4th, and he's a sex offender. You know what I mean? So it pissed me off. So I started looking into it more, and then I called someone that was with the People's Convoy for a long time. I'm not even going to say who, but I called and I said, did you know this was going on? And he's like, yeah, it's been talked about before. That's why he was kicked out over, somewhere else. And then he was allowed to rejoin recently, like yesterday or something like that. And I'm like, whoa. How are you there knowing that there's a child molester there? And I didn't get an answer from this person. And I said, how many of the other people that are in the same profession as you know that there are child molesters there? And he's like, oh, everybody. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, why haven't I heard about this? I've gotten all these things. Like, you got to write about 1776. Never heard there's child molesters. So then I called someone else that had recently departed the convoy. And I said, listen, I got to ask you a question, and I want your honest answer. Did you know there are pedophiles in this group? And he's like, I heard some rumblings. And then it was weird because, I was, in the convoy, and then some guy, the other pedophile, came up to me, and I forgot the other pedophile's name right now. I could look at the article I wrote, but I don't care. The other one, someone could put it in the chat. And he's like, this guy came up to me and was telling me about his crime and saying that he's changed and he found God, but that he assaulted a child when he was a child, and said that his crime was, it's forgiven, and that's why. And he's like, that was one of the reasons why I left. And I'm like, how are you not talking about this? Yeah, the Frankie Ledford. Yeah, that guy. I'm like, how can you not talk about this? Like, how can you not, like, you're a streamer. How can you not go out and be like, holy shit, guys? Like, especially like the religious streamers and stuff, the people that claim to be religious, the people that literally went to protest outside of a church to protest against people, against grooming and stuff like that. Like, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't understand it. So what I ended up doing is I wrote the article, right? And obviously, even though like everyone always like, oh, look at the viewers. Well, we have this little army at Citizen Stringer of people that get pissed off, right? So as soon as I started talking about it that one day, everybody else did. It became, they all started talking about it right away. It was almost like, oh shit, Steve talked about it, so now we're free to do it. And yeah, we'll criticize Steve, whatever, but that's what everyone did. And so now it became known. And then it was like a day or two after, they went to the National Mall. And I'm like, wait a second, you got pedophiles that are part of this group, and now you're going to camp out and protest on the National Mall where people and tourists walk their children every day? And maybe I got out of the journalism hat just for a little bit because I was pissed, right? I was pissed. And then I watched a video on the National Mall of someone interviewing Santa about this. And then that person asked why Santa would allow it. And Santa said he got a letter from his PO. And I'm like, the fuck you did. There's no fucking way that a PO is going to say, yes, we give our level 3 registered sex offender permission to go block roadways in Washington, D.C. and stage protests at the National Mall where they're not supervised. So I decided, because we were going to write an article on it, I decided that I would call his PO. And I did. And I spoke to his PO. And I'll be honest with you, they did write a letter. A blanket authorization not for him to be part of the 1776 restoration movement, to be part of social gatherings, as long as he's under the constant supervision of another adult when children are around. That is verbatim from his probation officer. And I'm like, are you telling me that you and it wasn't even about Marcus Kopach at that point. It was about they are giving permission slips for sex offenders to be around children, regardless of where it is. I couldn't believe it. I was pissed off. I was like, there's no way in hell that a probation office anywhere is doing this, let alone this one where, it's a level 3 sex offender that molested a child. Like, there's no way. So I demanded to speak to her supervisor. And I get the supervisor on the phone very same day. And again, public information. Everybody can find out who his PO is, because you could find out what jurisdiction he's in. And it doesn't matter. He's not part of this group anymore, apparently. But the problem is, like, if you're fighting for freedom, wouldn't you fight for the freedom of the little kids and shit like that are, could be victimized by the person that you're allowing to be in there? So long story, the probation supervisor, who I think is running for office, to be honest, that probation supervisor also confirmed, yes, they do these blanket authorizations to allow registered sex offenders to be in social gatherings as long as they are under the constant supervision of another adult if children are present. And I'm like, you are absolutely fucking nutty, like, to do that. And I literally did. My journalism hat was out the door, because I started swearing at the probation and parole people, saying, how could you do this? Like, if one child is done, if one child is harmed by this scumbag, I am going to do everything in my power to make sure you go to jail. I told the POs this. I was so mad about this. And I hung up with them, tried to cool down for a minute, and I went live. And I ranted and raved about the pedophiles that are at the National Mall and all that stuff. And it caused more ruckus everywhere. the title of this video is why I can never support the 1776 restoration movement. It's not a matter of won't support the 1776. I cannot do it. I personally believe that anybody who provides safe harbor, shelter, food, water, shares the air next to someone who's harmed a child is a less than human. They are on the same level as someone that molested a child. In this group, provided safe shelter to at least 2 known child sex offenders. And after they knew about it, they were like, well, it was our choice. We didn't believe it. We think it was a divorce thing, and he was forced to plead guilty and spend several years in jail. We believe that it was forced, that the mother coached this young child to go in front of sex assault investigators and give detailed descriptions, so much so that they charged him with 7 felony charges for molesting a child. 7. Which means that would be 7 different incidences that this little kid recanted verbatim what happened. There's no way, and I'll be honest with you, there's nothing ever that could change that would make me ever support this group in its current form. And I did go a step further, okay? I did go a step further and attacked the people that were streaming this. The people, and I'll be honest with you, it's not something I do very much. You know, I try not to go after streamers because, you know, we use them. I'm a restreamer. We use streamers all the time. But I went out of where the normal space that I was because I couldn't believe. So after learning that there were pedophiles in the groups and talking to several different streamers that were part of this convoy and the People's Convoy that were no longer part of it, I was like, they knew this. These streamers know. They all know that there are pedophiles that are part of this group. Every single person with a camera or a cell phone knows that there are pedophiles with this group at some point. How can you possibly advocate for freedom, advocate for children, or remember the shirts that I made, Defend the Innocent? Because children are the most vulnerable people. We have a job as adults to protect our children. If you say you are standing up for freedom and you are standing next to a pedophile and that guy is alive, you are not standing up for freedom, because that man or that woman, because pedophiles can be women too, they robbed the freedom of a child. So what I learned that streamers knew about it and refused to address this to anybody else. Refused. Anytime it was brought up in the chat, they shut it all down. They blocked people. They kicked him out and said, we're not talking about that. It was someone else's decision. And yet, all the while, they're like, give me money, give me money, give me money. I realized something about a lot of people that I have a lot of respect for. Even the people I don't like, I still respect them and have a lot of respect for what they do. It's not about freedom as much as they talk about it. It's not about religion. It's about money. It's about making money. Okay? And that's why they continue to be there. That's why they continue to talk about it. That's why they continue to apologize and make excuses for these people that enable. Because what do you do when you provide safe harbor to someone that victimizes children? You are literally enabling them. Yes, so I firmly believe that anybody that's there with a camera is supporting pedophiles, even though the pedophiles are gone because this group supported pedophiles. Anybody who's there protesting doesn't believe in freedom because they believe in robbing the freedom of youth, of children. And now we're learning that there's even more people with domestic assault. And to be honest, like, domestic assault is far different than, and I say that not really because you're not a man if you punch a woman. That's my opinion. So I say domestic assault is different, not really. But I've heard, right, that there's men that are charged and convicted or plead guilty to assaulting women that don't do it, which I don't know how you could plead guilty to something you didn't do. I just don't. Maybe there's people who have done it, but now you learn that, okay, everyone's like, oh, the sex offenders are gone, so people could stop talking about that. No. Nobody should stop talking about it until the whole group is disbanded and everyone went back to the hole that they crawled out from. Every single person that's part of it. Because if you stand for freedom, I can't say, I'm on social media. If you stood for freedom, the second you learn Marcus Kopak or this other guy, Frankie, were sex offenders, you would have done something about it. And that's what standing for freedom means. Or when a guy beats up a girl at the place, you would have done something about it. But you don't. And what you do is you you apologize for it. You say, well, he was set up. Isn't it weird? Like, yeah, the other day Santa was doing something with WYSIWYG. And he was on his show. And Santa's like, I had it on good authority from two people who were sexually molested by pedophiles that they believed that Marcus Kopak was not a pedophile. Shut the fuck up. Marcus Kopak pled guilty to molesting a child. He is a pedophile and always will be and doesn't deserve to survive anything. He deserves to have the worst possible life for the rest of his life. And then he should be thankful that he's even able to get that. He shouldn't be out of jail. None of it. He should be locked up. Every single one of them. Someone said, if you were religious, you know why the decision was made in church. I went to church with pedophiles, rapists, and murderers. Then you also don't believe in God, Lazar. Right? There's got to be something in the Bible that says that pedophiles must be like stricken from the earth. And I don't care. If you disagree with me, go fuck off. Like, seriously, go change the channel. Don't ever watch me again. Because I am never, ever going to support this group. But the reason I needed to talk about this today in length, it's been an hour. Oh, Citizen Stringer, the video is going to cut out. The whole video will replay at 8 o'clock today. Sorry, it's going to cut out, but I'm going to keep going. Pizza and Tilly's coming up live on Citizen Stringer. The thing that drives me nuts is the more people talk about it, the more it seems that people just don't care. You know what I mean? And I don't get it. G. Gill said, it's even worse. Yeah, and you know what? You're right. G. Gill on YouTube said, this makes it just so much worse. They did something only because the wrong person knew. Otherwise, they would have done nothing. Oh, F them. Sorry, I read that wrong. I actually thought you said they did something only because the person knew them, right? And otherwise, they would have probably done it to somebody else. Or maybe they wouldn't have done it at all. I don't know. I've read your comment backwards. I don't know, man. But the reason why I needed to talk about it today is because I saw a bunch of people. When I was trying to call WYSIWYG before, or 2 days ago, I didn't want to talk to WYSIWYG. I wanted to talk to Santa. I wanted to be like, you are a fucking groomer. You are someone that encourages pedophiles. And I believe Santa said he made a mistake. I don't care. That group should be gone. And to be honest, everybody that's contributing money to them should be investigated, because you are contributing money to a group that enables pedophiles. How can you do that under good conscience? How? You know what I mean? People can't change. Those type of people cannot change. I will be completely honest with you. They cannot change. In my humble opinion, they cannot. Joe Johnson said, I've seen plenty of church people do bad things. I'm not even doing, I haven't mentioned God or anything like that. I'm talking about just from a human perspective. Pedophiles are not human. Like, they're not. How you can't, it's just grossing me out. But I saw, my goal when I was trying to call into Chris's show, because, and to be honest, I wasn't bitter at him for not answering. He had Santa on. Of course, he wasn't going to put me on, because then he would lose any respect that he has with Santa. Because here's the thing. Santa would view that as an ambush, because look at Santa all the time. He's always playing the victim. Antifa's doing this. These people are calling me a pedophile. They're calling me a groomer. They're saying this. They're sending pictures shaped as dicks of my grandmother. All this weird stuff. And by the way, Ant and Anarchy Princess and all you morons that are doing, you're not doing anything good. I understand your frustration and I applaud you for going out there, but doxing individual people, going like the lawyer lady, I don't know who the fuck she is, but being like, oh, you lost your law, or no, that was the other. That was Oreo doing that to her. But all that doxing bullshit, you guys, you know what that is? That's some fascist bullshit right there. You know? Because there's one thing of targeting pedophiles, but when you're going out there and targeting people that are just participating in the protests, like I'm saying what I'm saying now, but I wouldn't go out there and, hold rallies and do, because I'd fucking end up beating someone up. I just couldn't do it. There's been a good mind several times, especially with Oreo running his mouth, that I'm like, you know what? I'll go to Bunker Hill. I'm 40 fucking minutes away. I got all excited when he said he was going to go pay people visits and shit. I'm like, please come. You know what I mean? And I have no ill will towards Oreo either. But then again, I do fault him. Maybe I do have ill will now. I think I have ill will for any streamer who knowingly promoted this group as a freedom group and called for more people to come when they know that this group was enabling pedophiles. So I don't even know. I didn't make the shirt to spite Oreo or to profit off his idiocy. No, I made the shirt because it's fucking funny. And that's why I made the shirt. And that's usually what I do. And normally that squashes this shit. But Oreo, he thrives on the bullshit. But again, Oreo is also out there doing something that no one else is doing. He's out there every day streaming something, and maybe in his warped mind, he believes what he says. But I don't know how you could be at a protest in Fresno, California, protesting against these anti-fascist people, providing safe harbor for children, while you're then going across the country and protesting for a group that literally provides safe harbor to the people that harm children. And then when anyone tries to challenge you in your chat, you block them. Do you know what I mean? But I don't have any ill will towards Oreo. I never did. I want to know. I wanted his answer. How did he, because he's a really loud, outspoken guy. How could he possibly have known that there was a pedophile amongst them and not viciously attack them with baseball bats and crowbars? I don't know. And that's really what I want to know. And every time anyone tries to ask him the question, he just blocks him, and says, trolls make me money, or whatever the fuck he says. You know what I mean? And that's that's the only thing I want to know. He has kids. Would he allow Marcus Kopach to be by his children? And that's the thing. And, and I know a lot of you guys are going to go and talk to him and be like, oh, Steve was talking about you. And I hope he watches this. And I hope he addresses it in a respectful way. I'm not being mean. I think, for example, the people that went to Oreo's house, you're fucking stupid. You're stupid. And you're lucky you didn't die. Do you know what I mean? That kind of shit, I'll never support that either. The people that are out there that were protesting because pedophiles were in the group, that's fine. But what's going on now, the Defender of the Ants, the Anarchy, the Melanie, or whatever the fuck all these people's names are, they're not on the right side of this either. And to be honest, I don't know what the right side of this is, But I can tell you, I'm tired of hearing about the fucking group. You know what I mean? And I'm sad. Someone said if he was watching, no, I'm saying maybe he watches on later, and that's what I asked. I want him to. I want him just to watch it and listen, because then maybe he'll have some understanding of where I'm coming from. Because he's someone that always just says, Steve, he sits in his mom's basement. Yeah, this is a fucking basement. This is a storefront in Winchester. You know where Winchester is, Oreo? That's where your car was getting worked on, or maybe still is. We're here. I'm here. This is where my warehouse and office is. We have the store in Woodstock, too, on Main Street. And I live halfway in between it. But we don't hide. And I said I'd do an interview with him or call or, and then people were trying to set up a round table. There's no round table. We can have it. But the only question I want to ask him is, how could he have possibly supported this movement knowing that they supported pedophiles? That's it. I don't know. And you got to give it to WYSIWYG. WYSIWYG challenged it a little bit, as much as he could. He challenged it. And then I don't know. I haven't listened to his videos since he's been out of the Convoy, not going there every single day. So I don't know what his positions are. And yes, I do talk to Chris a lot. I like Chris. I think he's an incredibly good guy, and he's incredibly passionate about the right things. And even though we don't all align, and I'm not talking about right or versus left, just things that matter to him, like Antifa and now this seems to be something he's passionate about. I have no ill will towards, and to be honest, any of the streamers, no ill will towards anybody. People in the group, however, I do have ill will towards people that supported and defended pedophiles. I'll never understand it. You know what I mean? I'll never understand it. Von Michelle, see, there's a difference. Someone said, Steve, do you support Oreo Docs Squirrel House on live stream? No, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't support doxing at all. And you can't fight. Like, for example, I've been doxed. I've been swatted. We don't even say it. I've had cops show up at my house since living in Virginia. I don't get on the stream because I don't want more people to do it. You know what I mean? That's why, like, all these people that are like, I just got swatted. No, you don't. You're not going to broadcast that kind of bullshit because you don't want it happening again. I don't believe in doxing. I don't believe in any of that stuff, And so, anybody else who does it, and I don't watch any of them enough to actually care, Becky said, wow, just came back and he's still talking about this. Yeah, I said it was going to be a long one because I needed to address all this stuff. And once and for all. Anarchy Princess. What the fuck? You guys are in here? Anarchy Princess said, interesting. You and Wizzy could talk in person. I have talked to Chris in person. WYSIWYG. I've talked to him in person. I respect him. And to be honest, I don't watch your videos, Anarchy Princess, because I did once, and your voice fucking annoys the fuck out of me. You have like a super obnoxious voice, so I don't watch your streams. But from what I can understand, is you are a real fucking nutbag from everything that I've heard. You know what I mean? From everything that is heard. Someone said, Mushy Cookie and Wiz Boy scared of Steve. Who's Mushy Cookie? Oh, is that Oreo? That's good. See, in Oreo, like a lot of people are like, Steve, why don't you eat Oreos anymore? Oreo. I haven't had an Oreo since I found out he supports pedophiles at the 1776 Restoration Movement. No, I'm just kidding. I went on a diet. I haven't had Oreos. I can't eat them anymore. Mean Dean sent me like 15 boxes of Oreos. I can't eat them anymore. I had them for so long. Couldn't do it. Defender of Ants is also in here. And again, you also are slightly fucking mental. I'll be honest with you. And you said you've never doxed anyone, which is complete bullshit. I've watched your streams, and I believe I've heard you dox people. But Defender of Ants, if I were you, I would just go somewhere, wherever you live, and just go away. Like you made, just go away. Because you are literally making it worse for the people that actually, say you cared about freedom, right? Say you cared about freedom. Say you actually cared. You're sending me a text not you, but someone's sending me a text while I'm live, telling me to come on your stream while I'm live, while you're live, apparently. How does that fucking work? Come on, dude. And to be honest, this is the last video I'm talking about this shit. I'm not going on anybody else's streams talking about it. I don't fucking care. Like, people can say what they want about it. That 1776, I'll be honest, this is what I'm calling it. And I've been doing it for a while. 1776 pedophile movement. Because it's what they seem to be advocating for is the restoration of rights for pedophiles. By saying, oh, they've changed, or oh, they didn't do it, they were set up. Fuck that shit. You don't plead guilty if you're set up. And that's my opinion, and it's never going to change. But the Defender of the Ants said he never doxed anyone, and I believe that's bullshit, because I think I've seen it. Wyckoff's America, right here in the chat too. He's another streamer that's been out there filming. And I think you guys, you went down to Florida. I'm kind of jealous because you travel a lot, which is cool as shit. I wish I could do that. I just can't because I run all this stuff up here. But that dude, like, and I don't know, like that dude got a lot of shit too for some reason. I never even heard of him, you know. I never even heard of Wyckoff's America until I saw him get beaten up by the security for the 1776. And I was really confused because I saw Defender of the Ants, that fucking nutbag, and some other nutbag jump out of a van and start yelling at Wyckoff in front of his girl, which, you know, if you raise your voice in front of me while I'm with my wife, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. And that's a promise. Like anyone that ever sees me in public and wants to try it, I have no problem. I got lots of money in a bail fund for me. I don't need to raise money for it. We've saved that money just in case. Because I know one day it's going to happen. I'm just going to go off on somebody. But how people like can go, and here's the thing. Like all of you guys, like Defender of the Ants, Oreo, all you other people that are out here streaming all the time, you cannot say that you're a fucking man when you're talking down to a woman. Okay? No matter how much you disagree with her, no matter how much you hate them, when you talk down, I've heard these fucking bozos attack women because of their looks, attack women, sexually attack women, like with their words. There's no way. So like, yeah, so I do pass judgment on all you scumbags too. And I call you scumbags because you are doing it. You're out there talking to women in such a way that no. And I've heard Oreo do it too. And it's crazy. April is back in the chat telling you all to be respectful. Otherwise you get Butch the dog, whoever you are. You said DOA never doxed. I'm pretty sure he did. But frankly, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. He's fucking nuts. He's funny. I'll give Defender of the Ants that. I've actually broke out laughing several times watching his videos because he'll say something and you can kind of see how his mind works, where I think he has like no filter. So he kind of gets a pass on some of the shit he said because I don't think he can control what he's saying. And a lot of people are saying it could be the drugs. I don't know if he does drugs. I don't jump on that bandwagon, but he's funny sometimes because he'll say something and I've actually laughed out loud. Like one time I remember he was the time you're getting busted by the police in the Taco Bell or whatever. I was watching that video, not live, but I was sitting there on my couch watching it. You said something. I don't know what it was, but it just made me fucking crack up. And even my wife was like, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, some crazy guy getting yelled at in a Taco Bell because he's putting up posters of pedophiles outside the 1776 restoration movement. She's like, "What you do?" And I'm like, "I didn't do shit." And then it kind of dawned on me today. I'm like, nobody talked about this. Jax Nana said, I'll be glad when we get back to our regular programming. Yeah, this one was a bit different because I felt like I needed to talk about this because I saw so many people. And here's the thing. I don't want you going into the other chats saying, talk to Steve, I don't want anybody doing that shit anymore. Like WYSIWYG just had a chat and all these people were jumping all over him about him not answering the call when I was calling. I didn't answer WYSIWYG when he fucking just called me and texted me. I'm doing a live show. I don't blame him for doing it. You know, I didn't want to talk to Chris. I wanted to talk. And I'll be honest, Chris knows who I am. He's seen me do interviews. He's not, if he wants to hold any sort of like connection to the 1776 group, he is not going to have me go on with Santa, with David Riddell. He's not going to do it because he knows how I'm going to jump all over him because that is my style. Why do you think I don't interview people much? Look at the interviews that I've had. You could see my face. Like I asked one political candidate that was on my show a while ago. Remember, I asked him something about sending money to Ukraine or something, and he gave some answer, and I was like, all right, well, this interview's over. Like, I just can't do it. You know, I don't have that, and I've never had that ability. That's why I don't work well with others, like in employment, because if I'm pissed, like my face shows it, and if I'm let down, I tend to move on real quick. So like if I work a job and I realize it's not going anywhere, I'm like, hey, I'm out. That's why I've been laid off from one job, never been fired from a job, but I've left quite a few, and That's that. Someone said I don't interview well. No, because I don't have. I also don't have a filter. Don is saying, did I take my meds today? Actually, I'm being quite calm right here. You must not be talking about me. If you think I'm being hyper right now, I'm actually being quite calm. But Idner said that you didn't take your meds, so that's good. Well, I'm glad we could help you guys. Someone said interview Ant. Nah, I'm not like this. This is it. I'm really not talking about any of this shit anymore. Lovely Bug said 68,000 subs and only 508 here. Where? Do I have 500 people on YouTube? That's a lot. We are incredibly shadow banned. Like if you search my name right now, you're not going to find it. And we lose. We add subscribers every day and we lose them. There's just nothing I can do. YouTube doesn't want to see it. But yeah, but that's what I wanted to that's what I wanted to address. Lekator Freeman said, it looks like a rant and I don't know what the fuck you're on about still. Oh, you just need to watch the whole show. Because yeah, I suppose if you jump in on the last part, it's not going to make sense to you. You got to kind of listen to the whole thing. Brad made a stupid comment like this. That doesn't do anything. Was he? Don't do that. And again, I'll preface it every day. Is the Aunt Dem lady, because I just saw the Discord mod thing, is that the same Democrat lady that's been in our chat for a long time? I don't know how to find that thing because I didn't click it in time. Let me see. Agenda TV banned you. Yeah. Well, they ban everybody. Hold on. Now I'm trying to see something. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Just if it's the same Dem lady. All right. Well, that's your only pass then. Actually, aren't you a member on Citizen Stringer? So if she gets out of line on fucking YouTube, ban her, and then she could just watch on Citizen Stringer, where we don't monitor people. Why does it say Aunt's Dem lady? Now you're really making me question your cognitive lady. Someone said Dem lady is a different person. Gotcha. I thought it was because a Dem lady is respectable. Someone said, talk about Riddell claiming over and over he could pay 10 grand and clear Marcus's name somehow. That's my big question. There's no fucking way. See, and here's the thing. They're never going to reverse his conviction. You know why? He pled guilty. They're never, even if a little kid recants because, they receive pressure. Oh my God. I didn't hear that statement. That makes me even more question David Riddell. Because if David Riddell is saying he can clear Kopach's record by paying 10 grand, who's he going to try to do? The only way that record gets overturned is if the girl recants. Are they going to try to? And it can't even get returned. He pled guilty. I don't believe it could get overturned. He pled guilty. You can't overturn something, years and years later. He's a pedophile, and he will be for his entire life, and nothing will ever change that. Someone said there isn't an excuse for having person. Someone said Dem lady is the same Dem lady. I don't think so, but someone said Steve Oatley, bro, look out talking bad on Oreo. His number one MAGA princess 45 will come for you. Yeah, she already tried. See, that's the thing is my background is what it is. So yeah, I grew up in foster care. Yeah, I was a little bit of a troublemaker, in my preteens or teens, right? And foster care and group homes and all that stuff. Yeah, okay. That's all the dirt you can get on me. So, and they try to go after my mods and all that stuff, or not mods, my employees and people that work with me every single day, friends of mine, good friends of mine, as if I don't know everything about them too. You know what I mean? So like that, we don't really play that thing, because we're kind of above it. You know what I mean? That's why I don't dig into, like the Antifa, and that's how you could tell I don't really care about these people as much, because the Antifa people, oh my gosh, those Antifa streamers, I view them as domestic terrorists. So I knew everything about them, from where they lived, their moms, their dads, where their parents worked, where their brothers worked, everything. And I never once mentioned it on the air. Never once. And we knew all that stuff, but we've got approximately 9 more minutes until this has been a half an hour show. Did you guys see, actually, I've got a couple of things to do. I'm going to play the Megabox commercial. We sell these Megaboxes. I made this commercial yesterday. It's pretty good. And then I've got the promo for tomorrow's riot footage. I'll show that the day early. And I don't believe I've uploaded this yet on demand, or maybe I did. I don't remember. Did I? Let me check it out. No, I didn't, but I will. I'll upload it after this. I started the process, so it'll be pretty quick. So, yeah. But first, check out this. Our mega boxes are on sale. The October mega boxes, the August mega boxes, they all went out from UPS. Most of you guys have already got them. You've been sending me pictures, and keep sending them. Like, if you get them, send the emails saying you really, like it. Send me a picture of it. Send me a picture of you in a hoodie or a t-shirt or something like that. And just say if I can use that on ads or social media, because I would love to, to show people how awesome you guys all are. I do have 2 in here and like 10 packages of coffee that have, you probably got to notice that they shipped a couple of days ago. They're still here because it's been pouring and I haven't been able to get them out to my car without ruining the boxes. So I'm going to go to the post office tomorrow one way or not, drop off those 5 packages. The September boxes will go out probably by the end of next week. And then the October boxes will stop selling them right around the same time, probably another week. So if you haven't bought one of those boxes, you should. And look, this is how awesome they are. Well, hello there. My name is Steve, and I have something important to tell you. Consider it a public service announcement or whatever you want it to be. Did you guys know we have a coffee shop and a store and a bunch of other stuffs in an effort to try to be able to do everything we do here on the news side, right? Yeah, well, it's become that time of the month where we have just released our October pre-sale for our mega boxes. Now, let me tell you a little, you know what? Let me show you what a mega box looks like. As you can see here, you get some of the best t-shirts, some of the best hoodies, some of the best drinkware, 2 bags of the best damn coffee you've ever had. And guess what? There's more. One lucky winner wins a 55-inch flat screen TV. And for what's different than what we've done before, the October boxes, you get a double entry into our massive October 1st giveaway drawing, where we're giving away a trip for 2 nights to Key West, Florida. Yeah, we're doing it. Why? Because we can. Now, it's super simple. All you have to do is go over to puretruthcoffee.com, go over to the menu tab, click on Mega Box, add that sucker to cart. You might as well add some coffee too and all that good stuff. Add a t-shirt, add some stickers, whatever. And then check out. You can, here's the best part. There's so many best parts to the best part. You can also finance that sucker with Shop Pay. 4 easy payments. What are you waiting for? Go over to puretruthcoffee.com. Pick yourself up a mega box. Now I'm fading to black because it's sick. I really like that commercial. I just like how I was talking, looking in the camera, fading off to black with this button. I don't know. I just like that. I like the fade, and I could cut it like this. Oh, wait, no, that doesn't do it. Is that the only thing? I should make it like fade. Can I fade to white? Oh, I don't think so. What's this do? I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, so that's good. Other people said, oh, watch out, Steve. Santa may sue you. Okay, whatever. I'm not really worried about that. Someone said, is there no chat on Citizen Stringer anymore? You're at $12.90 a year. You have to send me an email. I've been trying to get it easy to everyone. Someone said, grifting ain't easy. All right. Oh, so you think when I'm selling shirts and merch and coffee? Guys, I have a 6-figure coffee company. Okay. So the coffee company is way bigger than streaming or anything. We have so many residual sales and all that stuff. So like the streaming, trust me, I hate doing the streaming. I hate talking about it because I could be printing t-shirts. I could be preparing. Like today, so I was printing all these shirts and I wish the camera was set up so I could take it to the other room and show you. But I was printing all these shirts and I'm like, I figured out how to do it because I've been having a stock issue, right? So part of the issue with the store opening the store is because, well, obviously revenue has been a little bit lower. We got to pay up all the bills and finalize some bigger payments that we had. So revenue was lower. So I had a stock issue because every time I do one of these boxes, it's like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of shirts, all the, thousands of dollars worth of coffee, all that stuff. And then to put it into the store, I have to keep all that stock. Well, I came up with this idea today and it is brilliant. Do you guys want to know what it is? Are you ready for some brilliance? We're going to actually just print the shirts on demand because we use the heat press, right? So it's screen printed onto a transfer paper and then we heat it up to like 400 degrees and it, bonds it to the shirt. So instead of us keeping a massive amount of stock with the designs already pre-printed, no, we're going to have a selection of maybe 5 colors. We'll have all of our designs on little canvases up on the wall. And then people can come in and be like, yeah, I'd like a number 2. I'd like an American flag on one sleeve, PT logo on the other, maybe my name engraved on the top, whatever. But we'll be able to customize shirts that way. And that's what I'm going to do. And to be honest, it doesn't really cost that much more. It's actually much better than keeping stock because then the only thing I'm buying are the shirt blanks, right? So if instead of printing up, like say, for example, if we did an order of these, like a pre-sale, and I predict that we're going to sell 200 of them, I have to make 200, or actually I have to make a little bit more just because sometimes I burn the shirts or sometimes I print them crooked or something like that just because of rushing and trying to multitask. So, but yeah, we'll have a free coffee shop where you can come in and custom, and plus it means I can keep way more t-shirts in stock. Instead of having them, I will just print them as an order comes in. So, and it works better because then if I switch the store to that style, it's even better. Because you know what I was thinking about when I was printing all these shirts? I'm like, I'm going to print a bunch of shirts. And if I go to Freedom Fest and I don't sell them all, I'm going to lose money, right? Because I had to buy all the shirts and all that stuff. So I'm like, why don't I take the trailer, mount all the heat press equipment in there, and then I could just, on the side of the trailer, because I have a big, like, blacked out trailer, on the side of the trailer, I could just put all the designs. And where you come in, you get your free cup of coffee. While you're making the coffee, you're like, yeah, Steve, so I'll take a number 1 extra large green, please. And I sit in the back and I'm like, coming right up, like I'm making a fucking hamburger, right? Because it takes me like 10 seconds. I just grab the shirt, put it on there, press it, boom, you get a piping hot cup of coffee and a piping hot shirt. So, yeah, I think you may see that in the future because nobody does anything like that. And I like to be a trendsetter, but yeah. Find the right passion said, I would like to know if so-and-so went to J6. Why? Like, why do you even fucking care? Who is this person? With your stupid, you just hide behind stuff. Like, why? Does that even bother you? Why would a journalist, an accredited journalist, go to January 6th to document? Do you know we had 3 camera crews in Washington, D.C. on January 6th? 2 of which had the FBI show up at their door. Yep. That's what we do. We send camera crews to document things. Independent journalists are going to go and document them. That's why you're not seeing independent journalists getting arrested. Come on, man. Someone said our coffee. No, we don't drop ship coffee. So all of our coffee. So we order from 2 roasters. And I'll be honest, I am not going to be, we're going to use for the donut shop and the decaf, this new roaster. I'm not switching. All of the other roaster going right back to the original roaster. There's a difference to me. And our coffee is the best coffee. And I'm not going to let any subpar roast ruin our name. So, and the way you'll be able to tell is if at the top, if it's stamped with a date, that means it's the new roaster. And so like our Awake Not Woke, Wake Up America, French Blend, French Vanilla, Brooklyn's Finest, what's the other one? Oh, and Victory or Death are all through the original roaster. Even though it costs me more money and it's a way more work because I got to package it all. It's such a better roast that I can't replace it. So, but we don't drop ship coffee because I like to micromanage everything. So all of the coffee comes here we package it, which is why I needed the space. I actually have a coffee room that's an air conditioned, cool, dark, cool and dark room for the coffee, specifically for the coffee. And then all of the shirts. We don't drop ship coffee because I like fresh coffee and I only sell stuff I like. It's the same with the t-shirt designs and all that stuff. I don't sell stuff that I don't like because I'm weird like that. Someone said, wouldn't it burn down a trailer? No, but the trailer would get hot. I would need a heat guard probably. Yeah. Cause it does get pretty hot. Like, when I was printing all the shirts, I had to take a break around 50 shirts this morning. Cause I'm like, oh my God, I was dying. It does get hot. But I think before I do any of that, I would have to customize. Cause I'll be honest, Black Rifle, as much as I hate them, they have a really nice trailer. It's got 2 big doors. They do coffee out of one and shirts out of the other. And I just like the trailer, and I already have the trailer. I just got to put the big concession windows up, which is the plan. It's been the plan for a long time. It just takes a lot of money. Do you know Corn Pop was a bad dude? Yes, damn right he was. Adam was in the chat last night. Yep, he's a good dude. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes the best reason is you're stupid and make bad decisions. Just saying. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes the reason is you're stupid and make bad decisions. Are you trying to say that's a bad decision? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, real quick, I made this other funny video today, and this may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I enjoy making these videos. This is what happens when you drink a cup of Flying High coffee. Looking out there, feel inside. You never you believe without me. Where the girls at? Where the girls at? Where the girls at? I'm a goofball because I told you I sing in the car all the time. And the problem is I'm in a rental car because I hit the deer in my car, and the rental car didn't have Sirius. So the only thing I could listen to is this pop radio station because it's the only thing that works all the way from here to the store and to my house. It's the only thing that works in between those 3 locations. Without me having to change it. So I'll be honest, I know virtually every single pop star. That's why, and you guys know, because like a week ago, I'm like, listen, these pop songs now are pornographic. They are. There's one song that like is the worst song ever. If I ever catch my kids listening to it or any kid listening to it, I'm going to break whatever they're listening to it on because it's wrong. All right, our last video of the day is the September 8th promo. So this is the video we're going to play tomorrow night at 9:30. Tonight, we will be playing the September 7th, 2020 video. And so this promo that I'm going to show you is not even available on social media yet. It will be on YouTube tomorrow morning at 7, I believe, is when it's scheduled to release. But how many of you guys remember this day in Los Angeles and Portland, Oregon? People that are out here protesting. I can't block out when they do curse so that people don't have to wait. Dude, what happened? Dude, F you, public. You are not prepared. getting it. Not the police doing it.
Los Angeles. South Central. Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies. And a Black Lives Matter protest.
Oh shit! One down, 754 of them to go. Got him! Anyway, so yeah, that video will be available on demand tomorrow or maybe tonight. You could see. So the way we have this working now is if you become a member on citizenstringer.tv, where it's our video platform. We're also live streaming. We have our own chat over there. You can sign up monthly, $12.99, or you can do an annual subscription. And if you use code RIOT, you'll save 50% on your annual subscription for life. It's a better deal than we've ever given. And the reason why we're doing it is so I can make a decent amount of money so I don't have to finance a coffee machine. I could buy it. I'll be honest with you. And we're nowhere near it. So we need a lot of members. Maybe if like, I don't know, what, 100 of you sign up, we'll be in a good position. So if you haven't already become a member there, it works out to be like $54 for the year. We'll be uploading. I think I have about 20,000 hours of riot footage. Every single footage or every single night that I covered riots, we will be uploading the video. I try to do 4 to 5 hours or 4 to 5 days worth, which is roughly 40 hours of riot footage every single day. But today I wasn't able to because I was too busy printing the shirts. But make sure you go over to citizenstringer.tv and sign up. Buy one of the mega boxes if you can, because that's also a great way to support us and everything we do. And yeah, buy our coffee because it's literally awesome. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right.